Ladies and gentlemen, proud moment for our entire nation. Chandrayaan has landed on the moon. And I would request all of you to also take your seats. We are just a few minutes away from the start of the celebrations. I'd request all of you to keep your mobile phones on silent mode, but don't hesitate to take pictures, as many as you want.
हाय, हमारे बंधन बैंक के 3 करोड़ कस्टमर्स होने की खुशी में
सिर्फ 7.5 साल में
ट्रस्ट से बंधन सिर्फ बनता नहीं बढ़ता भी है। 3 करोड़ से ज्यादा कस्टमर्स के साथ हर दिन ग्रो कर रहा है हमारा बंधन बैंक।
यश लेटेस्ट वाली देना मिठाई।
6,000 से भी ज्यादा बैंकिंग आउटलेट्स हो गए हमारे बंधन बैंक के।
सिर्फ 7.5 साल में
ट्रस्ट से बंधन सिर्फ बनता नहीं बढ़ता भी है। 6,000 से भी ज्यादा बैंकिंग आउटलेट्स के साथ हर दिन ग्रो कर रहा है हमारा बंधन बैंक।
मिठाई
मिठाई तो बनती है,
हमारे बंधन बैंक के 1 लाख करोड़ रुपए से भी ज्यादा डिपॉजिट्स हो गए हैं।
सिर्फ 7.5 साल में।
ट्रस्ट से बंधन सिर्फ बनता नहीं बढ़ता भी है। इसी ट्रस्ट से 1 लाख करोड़ रुपए से भी ज्यादा डिपॉजिट्स हो गए हैं बंधन बैंक के।
हमारे बंधन बैंक के 3 करोड़ कस्टमर्स होने की खुशी में
सिर्फ 7.5 साल में
ट्रस्ट से बंधन सिर्फ बनता नहीं बढ़ता भी है। 3 करोड़ से ज्यादा कस्टमर्स के साथ हर दिन ग्रो कर रहा है हमारा बंधन बैंक।
यश लेटेस्ट वाली देना मिठाई।
6,000 से भी ज्यादा बैंकिंग आउटलेट्स हो गए हमारे बंधन बैंक के।
सिर्फ 7.5 साल में।
ट्रस्ट से बंधन सिर्फ बनता नहीं बढ़ता भी है। 6,000 से भी ज्यादा बैंकिंग आउटलेट्स के साथ हर दिन ग्रो कर रहा है हमारा बंधन बैंक।
मिठाई
मिठाई तो बनती है। हमारे बंधन बैंक के 1 लाख करोड़ रुपए से भी ज्यादा डिपॉजिट्स हो गए हैं।
सिर्फ 7.5 साल में।
ट्रस्ट से बंधन सिर्फ बनता नहीं बढ़ता भी है। इसी ट्रस्ट से 1 लाख करोड़ रुपए से भी ज्यादा डिपॉजिट्स हो गए हैं बंधन बैंक के।
हमारे बंधन बैंक के 3 करोड़ कस्टमर्स होने की खुशी में
सिर्फ 7.5 साल में
ट्रस्ट से बंधन सिर्फ बनता नहीं बढ़ता भी है। 3 करोड़ से ज्यादा कस्टमर्स के साथ हर दिन ग्रो कर रहा है हमारा बंधन बैंक।
यश लेटेस्ट वाली देना मिठाई।
6,000 से भी ज्यादा बैंकिंग आउटलेट्स हो गए हमारे बंधन बैंक के।
सिर्फ 7.5 साल में।
ट्रस्ट से बंधन सिर्फ बनता नहीं बढ़ता भी है। 6,000 से भी ज्यादा बैंकिंग आउटलेट्स के साथ हर दिन ग्रो कर रहा है हमारा बंधन बैंक।
मिठाई
मिठाई तो बनती है। हमारे बंधन बैंक के 1 लाख करोड़ रुपए से भी ज्यादा डिपॉजिट्स हो गए हैं।
सिर्फ 7.5 साल में।
ट्रस्ट से बंधन सिर्फ बनता नहीं बढ़ता भी है। इसी ट्रस्ट से 1 लाख करोड़ रुपए से भी ज्यादा डिपॉजिट्स हो गए हैं बंधन बैंक के।
हमारे बंधन बैंक के 3 करोड़ कस्टमर्स होने की खुशी में
सिर्फ 7.5 साल में
ट्रस्ट से बंधन सिर्फ बनता नहीं बढ़ता भी है। 3 करोड़ से ज्यादा कस्टमर्स के साथ हर दिन ग्रो कर रहा है हमारा बंधन बैंक।
यश लेटेस्ट वाली देना मिठाई।
6,000 से भी ज्यादा बैंकिंग आउटलेट्स हो गए हमारे बंधन बैंक के।
सिर्फ 7.5 साल में।
ट्रस्ट से बंधन सिर्फ बनता नहीं बढ़ता भी है। 6,000 से भी ज्यादा बैंकिंग आउटलेट्स के साथ हर दिन ग्रो कर रहा है हमारा बंधन बैंक।
मिठाई
मिठाई तो बनती है। हमारे बंधन बैंक के 1 लाख करोड़ रुपए से भी ज्यादा डिपॉजिट्स हो गए हैं।
सिर्फ 7.5 साल में।
ट्रस्ट से बंधन सिर्फ बनता नहीं बढ़ता भी है। इसी ट्रस्ट से 1 लाख करोड़ रुपए से भी ज्यादा डिपॉजिट्स हो गए हैं बंधन बैंक के।
हमारे बंधन बैंक के 3 करोड़ कस्टमर्स होने की खुशी में
सिर्फ 7.5 साल में।
ट्रस्ट से बंधन सिर्फ बनता नहीं बढ़ता भी है। 3 करोड़ से ज्यादा कस्टमर्स के साथ हर दिन ग्रो कर रहा है हमारा बंधन बैंक।
यश लेटेस्ट वाली देना मिठाई।
6,000 से भी ज्यादा बैंकिंग आउटलेट्स हो गए हमारे बंधन बैंक के।
सिर्फ 7.5 साल में।
ट्रस्ट से बंधन सिर्फ बनता नहीं बढ़ता भी है। 6,000 से भी ज्यादा बैंकिंग आउटलेट्स के साथ हर दिन ग्रो कर रहा है हमारा बंधन बैंक।
मिठाई।
मिठाई तो बनती है। हमारे बंधन बैंक के 1 लाख करोड़ रुपए से भी ज्यादा डिपॉजिट्स हो गए हैं।
सिर्फ 7.5 साल में।
ट्रस्ट से बंधन सिर्फ बनता नहीं बढ़ता भी है। इसी ट्रस्ट से 1 लाख करोड़ रुपए से भी ज्यादा डिपॉजिट्स हो गए हैं बंधन बैंक के।
हमारे बंधन बैंक के 3 करोड़ कस्टमर्स होने की खुशी में
सिर्फ 7.5 साल में।
ट्रस्ट से बंधन सिर्फ बनता नहीं बढ़ता भी है। 3 करोड़ से ज्यादा कस्टमर्स के साथ हर दिन ग्रो कर रहा है हमारा बंधन बैंक।
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Requesting all of you to take your respective seats. We are about to start the proceedings for this evening. Once again, requesting all our guests to take their respective seats. We wish to start the program now. There's a lot in store for us this evening. Therefore, requesting all the guests to take their respective seats. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this, the 8th anniversary of Bandhan Bank. 8 years ago, we started Bandhan Bank as a universal bank, and we've come this far. Most importantly, we could not have been more privileged to have an important feat accomplished by our nation on having Chandrayaan land on the moon on our foundation day. A huge round of applause to the entire nation.
This evening, we will have many moments that you would like to capture on your mobile phones, and we encourage that. Share on your social media profiles, and don't forget to tag Bandhan Bank and use the hashtag Bandhan Day.
We start this evening with the ceremonial lighting of the lamp, for which I would like to invite on stage our chief guest, Mr. K.K. Mistry, our chairman, Dr. Anup Kumar Sinha, our MD and CEO, Mr. Chandrasekhar Ghosh, and a few special guests, Ms. Champa Kalapahar, Mr. Jayanta Malakar, and Ms. Piali Mondol. Requesting Ms. Champa Kalapahar, Ms. Piali Mondol, and Mr. Jayanta Malakar to come up on stage for the lighting of the lamp. The Saraswati Vandana, which will be sung by two members of the Bandhan Bank team, Anuka Mitra and Aheri Bhattacharya, will be sung during the lighting of the lamp.
या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला या शुभ्र वस्त्रावृता या वीणा वरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेत पद्मासना या ब्रह्मसुता शंकरा प्रभृति वै देवै सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निशेष निशेष जड्ढापा निशेष जड्ढापा। नमस्कार, थैंक यू।
Thank you, Anuka and Aheri. The journey of Bandhan Bank has been a fulfilling one. There are many stories of people who, with the bank's support, have been able to transform their lives. We now bring you a short film capturing a few of the many stories across the country that we have been privileged to be a part of, driven by our resolve towards inclusive banking. What's more is that an important member of the Bandhan Bank family would take us through these stories. Let's have the film, please.
That's one of our wedding pictures. Clearly I needed lessons on how to smile. Then Sana came in. That's one of our wedding pictures. And no lessons. Clearly I needed lessons on how to smile. But then Sana came into the picture. And no lessons were needed. You know, a wall is like any other wall until you put a family on it. Well, this family you might have seen a lot of times. But guess what? I belong to another family and it's a big one.
मेरा नाम राखी शुक्ला है और मैं दिल्ली में संत नगर बुराड़ी में रहती हूँ। शादी होने के बाद मुझे लगा कि मुझे स्टिचिंग सीखनी चाहिए। तो उस समय लेकिन इतना घर में अलाउ भी नहीं था, बच्चे छोटे थे तब जा भी नहीं सकती। तो फिर मैंने क्या किया, कपड़े जो बने हुए होते थे ना उसको मतलब सिलाइयाँ खोल के देखती थी कि कैसे इसमें कटिंग हुआ है, फिर मैं उसको रख के वैसे ही कटिंग कर लेती थी। एक टेलर से मैंने बात करी कि मुझे सिलाई सीखना है। उन्होंने कहा कि मैम मैं सिलाई हम लोग सिखाएंगे नहीं, हाँ आप खड़े होके देख सकते हो तो देख लो आप। कैंची भी छूने नहीं देते थे मुझे। मैं अपने दोनों बच्चों को लेके जाती और फिर मैं खड़े होके उनकी कटिंग देखती, फिर घर पे आके वही चीज़ में ट्राई करती थी। घर से स्टार्ट करा मैंने ये काम। लेडीज़ दूसरी लेडीज़ को बता ही देती है काम, अच्छे यहाँ पे रिस्पॉन्स बहुत अच्छा हुआ। फिर मेरे को लगा कि मुझे दुकान भी खोलनी चाहिए, लेकिन दुकान खोलने के लिए ये भी है ना, पैसे भी लगानी पड़ती है। फिर मेरी एक फ्रेंड वो बोली कि आप ना यहाँ बंधन से लोन ले लो आप। मैं तो लोन यहाँ पे कौन देगा, मैं जाती हूँ एक बार देख लेती हूँ। फिर मैं गई तो उन्होंने बोला कि हाँ दीदी आपको लोन मिल जाएगा। तो बुटीक के बेसिस पे उन्होंने मुझे दिया लोन, उससे मैंने स्टार्टिंग करी थी। शुरुआत करा, पहले मशीनरी करी, फिर टेलर रखा, दुकान खोला। फिर मुझे लगा कि क्यों ना कस्टमर और बनाया जाए। फिर दोबारा लोन लिया मैंने। दोबारा लोन लेके मैंने क्या किया, कपड़ों का काम स्टार्ट कर दिया। उसी में कपड़े जब बिकते थे तो वो भी मेरे पास ही आता था सिलाई के लिए। तो उससे मेरा काम थोड़ा डबल हो गया। आसान नहीं होता जैसे दुकान और घर संभालना। बंधन के साथ मेरा रिलेशन बहुत अच्छा था, एक घर जैसा, परिवार जैसा। मेरी वजह से ज़रूरतें बहुत जनों की पूरी हुई है, जैसे तुरपाई वाली है, स्टिचिंग सूट सिलाई के लिए, पैंट और सलवार के लिए अलग लेडीज रखा था। मैंने भविष्य में सोचा हुआ है कि मुझे और लोन लेना है और काम को अपने और आगे बढ़ाना है। लोन लूँगी तभी मैं अपना काम बढ़ा सकती हूँ।
নমস্কার, আমি মৌসুমী কর্মকার, রাজারহাট থাকি।
আমি অরূপ কর্মকার। আমি একজন স্পোর্টসম্যান ছিলাম এবং স্কুল লাইফে অল স্টেটের মধ্যে আমি ব্যাডমিন্টনে সিঙ্গেলস খেলছি। কিছুটা অভিজ্ঞতা ছিল, এই অভিজ্ঞতাকে কাজে লাগিয়েই আমি এই স্পোর্টসের বিজনেসটা শুরু করি। আমি সেই ছোট দোকান চালানোর সঙ্গে সঙ্গে আমি একটা ডায়াগনস্টিক সেন্টারে কাজ করতাম।
তো আমি যখন বিয়ে করে এসে দেখলাম যে দোকানটা অনেকটা ছোট ছিল, খুব একটা বেশি কিছু ছিল না। তো তখন আমার মনে হলো যে দোকানটা যদি ঠিকঠাক মতো চালানো যায় তাহলে এই দোকান থেকে অনেকটা ইমপ্রুভ করা যাবে।
বন্ধন লোন দেওয়ার পরে যতটা পেয়েছি ঠিক ততটাই কাজে লাগিয়েছি বিজনেসের মধ্যে। তখন সেই চাকরিটা ছেড়ে দিই, কারণ সেটা করার আর দরকার পড়লো না। ওটা থেকেই আমাদের শুরু, আবার নতুন করে পথ চলা।
বন্ধন থেকে আমি লোন নিয়েছি স্যার 8-9 বার তো হবে।
যদি লোন পাওয়া না যেত তাহলে তো আমি আবার ছোট দোকানেই থাকতাম।
আমার লাইফস্টাইলটা পুরোটাই অন্য হয়ে যেত। তার কারণ হচ্ছে ছেলের একটা ভালো স্কুল, ছেলের বাস ফেয়ার, ছেলের অনেক কিছু অ্যাক্টিভিট ছেলেকে আমি দিয়েছি, সেটা কিছুতেই সম্ভব হতো না খুব একটা। তো স্যার আমাদের যাতায়াতের জন্য আমাদের বাস এগুলোই ঠিক ছিল, তার জন্য আমরা একটা স্কুটি কিনতে পেরেছি, যেটা করে আমরা ট্রাভেল করতে পারি।
এখন 7 থেকে 8টা ক্যাম্প আমি এই দোকান থেকে চালাই। যে যদি বন্ধন ব্যাংক লোন না দিত আমি আমার এই স্পোর্টস লাইনে, স্পোর্টস কোটায় আমি আবার ফিরতে পারতাম না। বন্ধন ব্যাংকে নিয়ে আমি রিলেশনশিপটা করছি, কারণ আমরা 3 জনেই আছি, আমি, আমার মিসেস আর বন্ধন ব্যাংক।
मेरा गांव एक छोटा सा थलुई करके गांव है। मेरे रिश्तेदार रिलेटिव ने मुझे लाया मुंबई। उनका होटल था, मैं महीना 2 महीना 4 महीने में सीख लिया। एक दिन उनको दिमाग में पता नहीं क्या आया, उन्होंने अभी का भी तुमको खाली करना है। खाली करके मैंने एज इट इज बिना चप्पल के उनके होटल से निकल गया। मुझे फाइनेंशियल प्रॉब्लम आ रही थी, इतने में कोई मुझे पहचान के, जो हम लोग के गेस्ट आते थे, मिल गए। बोले मैं तुम्हारे लिए कुछ न कुछ करूँगा। मुझे लेके गए ये प्रॉपर्टी का जो ओनर था उनके घर पे। बोले मैं तुमको ये प्रॉपर्टी देता हूँ। तो मैंने कहा कि कैसे, क्या इसका क्या है। लेकिन मेरे पास कोई ऐसा था नहीं, कोई बैंक रही होती, कोई पढ़ना था कि राकेश मैं तुम्हारे लिए स्टैंड हूँ। अगर मुझे बैंक का सपोर्ट मिला होता, जैसे अभी मुझे बंधन ने दिया सपोर्ट, तो मैं तो बहुत आगे मतलब कि और भी बिजनेस किए जा सकते थे। मुझे 2-3 दिन में उन्होंने सब फाइनलाइज करके पेपर्स तुरंत मुझे क्विक हमारे जो स्टाफ है, ये एंड की सैलरी, ये वो सब हमने बंधन से किया। फिर उसके बाद मैंने आज तक मुड़ के देखा नहीं। मेरा एक रेस्टोरेंट पीछे बन रहा है, उसका काम पूरा हो गया है अभी, ये बंधन की देन है। और फ्यूचर में मैंने बंधन बैंक से मेरी आगे फ्यूचर के बहुत प्रोजेक्ट के लिए बात चल रही है। मैं चाहता हूँ कि ये बंधन हमेशा बना रहे। हर चीज का भाई बहन का बंधन होता है, अच्छा बंधन का। तो बंधन बैंक से मेरा बंधन हमेशा बना रहे, ये मैं कामना करता हूँ।
मो ना ज्योत्ना साहू, मो बालाकाटीर। मोर यहाँ आमर यहाँ रथी जमार जाऊँगी। मु तो बैग काम करे, रेडीमेड तैयारी करे, सब लोक जोगाए करे। मु तो वर्षकर होती बाबा मरी जाइए। आम माँ से इनका संगे ये लव टिके इनका संगे लव मैरिज टिके हेले 6 वर्ष खंडे भल चली थिला। तापछे हठात कि इनका जॉब पळेला। बंधन बैंक सबुठु भल। गाँ को जाइथिले बो बाबू सेठी देखिली 8-10 जन खंडे बसिकी सब पैसा एमती मीटिंग कौन ये ना एमती पैसा दो सप्ताह पैसा दो। तापर से आनिली आनिकी बैग जड़ी फास्ट आनिकी कली। स्वामी भी हजबैंड भी मिसिले मो संगे मिसिकी सी भी शिखी नथिले भी शिखेली। बहुत साइज करते माल नहीं कि जाते मिसिकी भी कटाकटी कर दौते सब करते।
केबे भी मते कमी ये करे ना
लोन पैसा जहाँ सेव करथिले आ जहाँ व्यापार हेतिला लोन पैसा आसथिला सब मिसे की अग्रगति आसला। जहाँ बेले 8-10 थर खंडे लोन आनिसे आस्ते आस्ते व्यापार कर से पैसा रे भी घर किछि नथिला। से पैसा रू बाहर करके छात पकेली घर कलु देखिके आसे जे देखिए पैसा तो जदि बंधन आगे को टिके लोन दब भल लोन ताले गोटे ऊपर पार्लर करे इच्छा अच्छे करी मो झील ना रखी।
The people who are the bottom of the pyramid, especially they are women, and they are not getting the access of financial services from the formal financial institution. They are dependent for their business or their emergency need from the traditional money lenders, and that I feel that until we are not providing the financial services to that level, so country economy will be not like to grow good. Out of 3 crores customer, 2 crores customer are women, and they are empowered because they are financially earning the money. If you've seen our couple of customers' statement, how they are feel proud, how their tone have been changed, and how they are able to freely spend some money for their children future. So that is called women empowered. I feel that the transformation is not very easy, but a transformation is needed for our country. And for that vision, we are step by step, and we have been developed in the Bandhan. And if you see that there is a huge job I have been also created. And not only this, the job as an employee, this customer also created the job. If you see that the biggest achievement of Bandhan Bank, within a short time of the 8 years, trust created from the public. So people accept the Bandhan model, Bandhan Bank, Bandhan services. That is the biggest achievement for us. I can be give the loan, I can be take the deposit, but the changing the life of the people and change this family, like, that is a very big achievement if someone have been done on that. And we are feel proud of our customer, and they are expressed it on that. and we are supporting them, and they have been changed on that. We are feel proud of our employees. We are feel proud of our people, customer, well-wisher, and my board. Everyone have been inspired us to do this job.
I feel like this is what makes these stories so meaningful. It's the intent, the purpose, and the vision that makes this Bandhan so pure. A Bandhan that turns an ordinary wall into a magic wall of unwavering trust. Trust that these stories have on our bank. Bandhan Bank.
Carrying this mantra through his life, a visionary has created institutions that truly stand for impact creation. His relentless pursuit of improving the lives of people makes him a true reformer. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome on stage for his opening address the founder, managing director, and chief executive officer of Bandhan Bank, Mr. Chandrasekhar Ghosh.
Congratulations, everyone. Chandrayaan has landed successfully on the moon. This is a historic and proud moment for all of us in the nation. This achievement truly put the nation in a leadership position across the globe. We are happy that such a big achievement happened on our foundation day, in the moment when we are celebrating the foundation day. More power to India. This is surely is our time to shine. Namaskar. A very good evening to all our chief guest, Mr. K.K. Mistry, distinguished guest, customers of Bandhan Bank, directors of Bandhan Bank, my Bandhan Bank team, and very special guest today attended is my very old friend from Philippines, Card Bank, Dr. Alif, and his team. So thank you, all of you, ladies and gentlemen, to attend today in this auspicious day for all of us. This is in just 8 years before. I hope that a very short time we are seeing our bank has opened, and just 8 years before, late Arun Jaitley has been opened this bank 2015. While it has been just 8 years, we have experienced a lot. Let me start with a brief outlook on the operational environment in India. These are interesting times for all of us, especially for our country. With GDP growth, 7% is predicting for the next 2 years. Banking sector, swift and steady recovery post-pandemic has been a key factor in India's current stable economic performance. Credit growth was in a last year is a robust 15%. Deposit growth has come 10%. Asset quality improved significantly in financial year 22-23 as a gross NPA fell to a 10 years below 3.9% as on March 23. Banking sector continues to have a bright future as it plays a pivotal role in the overall economy of the country. I have mentioned on many occasions that Bandhan Bank is an impact organization. You just saw a couple of case studies, what changes have come to the customer's family. One of the family mentioned, the name is Rakhi Shukla from Delhi. She pursued her dream of stitching and today has empowered other women in the area to realize their dream. This is just one of the many of the examples how Bandhan Bank has been able to transform the life of the people which are bottom of the pyramid. We now have more than 3 crores customers and 2 crores are women in our bank. If we see that the 2 crores women, minimum 1 women who are develop this enterprise are employed in a one of the new employment generate the 2 crores employment generation. By the 2 crores people generated in a 4 crores employment. So this is the real change of the society and India happen this type of intervention. Such is the impact that Bandhan has been able to create. Our customer who have been with us for more than 8 years got the complete benefit of banking when we become a universal bank. Many of our microcredit customers, they are not only the customer of credit, they are customer of deposit, savings account, they have the fixed deposit, they have the retail deposit, they have the insurance, they have the mutual fund. So multiple way they are using the Bandhan Bank services as a totally, we call it as a financial inclusion happened in the ground level of our country. We are privileged to have been a part of this evolution of our customer in their journey towards financially maturity. We have also been fortunate to earn the trust of all our stakeholders, especially our customers. This trust has resulted in the bank getting more than 1 lakh crores deposit within a less than 8 years of the journey. Our total bank business size is 2 lakh crores. We have a well-diversified book with a commercial banking, housing finance, retail assets, all growing rapidly. In deposit, 70% of our deposit in a retail and granular. And out of that, the 39% of the deposit is as a CASA, which is also showing the strength of the bank, how the customer believes and trusts on us. We are truly a physical bank. While we are establishing a wide network of banking outlet, other side, we are also forcing keenly on digital. About 94% of the total bank transaction happen by digitally. 53 crores UPI transaction done in the last financial year 23. 31% of the retail deposits are coming from digital channel. Let me know who are doing it. We now have more than 72,000 employees who work with all their commitment in delivering the Bandhan banking experience. We have hired some of the best minds in banking in India. Over the last year, we have onboarded senior and experienced banking professionals to drive the next wave of growth of the bank. We also conducted the first ever engagement measurement of our people This was conducted by the global leader, the employee engagement assessment, very renowned company, Gallup. I am happy to tell you that we received the Gallup Exceptional Workplace Award 2023. What makes this award even more satisfying is that we are among only 3 companies from India, only 1 company out of 57 companies worldwide who have received the recognition. We are feel proud of our employees. Coming to this, the network of the bank. Our distribution network has been one of our biggest strengths. You know that the opening of the bank day, 8 years before, we opened 501 branches in one day. Now bank have that the 6,000 banking outlet. We have been mentioned that we have a presence in 34 states out of 36 states and union territory. I'm happy to tell you that just yesterday we have been expanded our reach even further and are now present in 35 states and union territory. Cause we opened a branch in Leh, which is marked our entry into the union territory of Ladakh. Only we have not presence in Lakshadweep. All other states we have been covered. It gives me the pleasure to tell you that we are declared as one of the world's best banks 2023 by Forbes in association with Statista. Another impact area that Bandhan Bank has able to deliver on is CSR, corporate social responsibilities. We run 7 CSR programs through which cover 63 districts in 8 states. The total beneficiaries through our various programs is nearly 19 lakhs. Our flagship program is targeting the hardcore poor, which means in the THP, which aims to pulling the poorest of the poor from the clutches of the poverty. TSP has covered 47,500 women-headed families across 8 states. Nobel laureate Dr. Abhijit Binayak Banerjee conducted the impact assessment study of this program since inception 2006. The other program that we are contribute to are the health program, which spreads across 5 states, has covered nearly 13 lakhs women with a child so far. The education program, we have nearly 4,000 schools, has covered more than 110,000 students across the 5 states without any cost. The Employing the Unemployed program, which is spread across the 5 states and has covered nearly 14,000 youth, we create the employment for others. The financial literacy program, which is spread across nearly 1,500 villages and has covered more than 4 lakhs families. The financial literacy drive by all Bandhan Bank employees over the next 1 year. We are meaning in here that we have that the 72,000 employees. Each employee in a year, 1 day will give for the society for educate the people for financial literacy. If it is a 72,000 of the employees, which can be reached to the 80,000 in a year, 80,000 people, 80,000 days will be given to the Society for Financial Literacy. It's a big program we have been taken this year. All these programs have shown noteworthy impact on ground, and the people in the communities have benefited from them. What's next for Bandhan Bank? 8 years is not a long time. We have been able to achieve scale quickly, but we are just getting started. Our objective is to drive the impact far and wide. I am happy to inform that we'll be going to open a branch in Kargil in September 2023. The branch will be for all who wish to bank with us, but more so for the brave hearts of our country. We have been appointed as an agency bank for the Central Bureau of Direct Taxes. Appointed by the RBI, anyone can now pay tax through Bandhan Bank. I am pleased to announce that we are about to launch our co-lending business as well from today. We'll continue on our diversification agenda, both geographic and the portfolio diversification. We aim to increase the share of secured loan in our bank even further to reach close to 15% by next 2 years. We are again like to mention in here, very soon we will be moved to a new core banking system. New core banking system is the heart and brain of our bank. And CBS is a heart and brain for any bank. A CBS migration of the scale of what Bandhan Bank is about to accomplish is unheard of the Indian banking industry. Where is the Bandhan Bank headed from here? While we are a bank for all, we will continue to be committed to inclusive banking and reach those who do not get easy access of formal financial services. We'll truly be a physical bank and will give customers the choice of their banking needs, whether physical or digital. India's 5 trillion dream will need to get significant push from the rural and semi-urban areas, and Bandhan Bank is geared to support businesses in those areas. I'd like to thank each of you for being a well-wisher and a supporter of the Bandhan journey. It has been a very fulfilling journey. We assured you of doing our best always. Please enjoy the rest of evening. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ghosh. You are a source of inspiration to many of us, not just here in this hall, but across the globe. It is always inspiring to hear you speak. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for our anniversary lecture, which will be delivered by our chief guest, Mr. K.K. Mistry. A qualified chartered accountant, Mr. K.K. Mistry brings with him over 4 decades of varied work experience in the banking and financial services domain. In 1981, Mr. Mistry joined HDFC Limited, India's premier housing finance company. Having held several important responsibilities while at HDFC, Mr. Mistry was appointed the Vice Chairman and Chief Executive Officer in the year 2010. With the amalgamation of HDFC Limited with HDFC Bank, Mr. Mistry is superannuated from HDFC Limited and is now a non-executive director on the board of HDFC Bank Limited. Apart from being responsible for the overall functioning of HDFC, Mr. Mistry played a critical role in the successful transformation of HDFC into India's leading financial services conglomerate. He facilitated the formation of companies including HDFC Bank Limited, HDFC Asset Management Company Limited, HDFC Life Insurance Company Limited, and HDFC Ergo General Insurance Company Limited. Mr. Mistry was a member of the Corporate Governance Committee constituted by SEBI in 2017. He was the chairman of the CII National Council on Corporate Governance for 5 years and is currently a member of the CII Economic Affairs Council. Mr. Mistry has received numerous awards and recognitions in his illustrious career, including Lifetime Achievement Award for Corporate Governance for 2020 by the Asian Center for Corporate Governance and Sustainability, CEO of the Year under the BFSI category at CNBC Awaaz CEO Awards 2019, the CA Business Achiever of the Year in the Financial Services by the ICAI in 2011. We are all privileged that someone of Mr. Mistry's stature will be delivering the anniversary lecture this year. Mr. Mistry will speak on the topic, Perspectives on the Economy, Housing and Corporate Governance in India. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Mr. K.K. Mistry.
Well, thank you very much on those kind words. Mr. Ghosh, the management team and staff of Bandhan Bank, customers of Bandhan Bank, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to all of you. It's a great pleasure to be here today on the 8th Foundation Day of Bandhan Bank. I would like to thank Mr. Ghosh for inviting me to be part of the celebrations. I would also like to congratulate the entire team of Bandhan on this momentous occasion. Your bank has been widely appreciated, not just in India, but even outside India, for creating a niche for itself by continuing to focus on financial inclusion by catering to the underserved. I'm confident that Bandhan will go from strength to strength in the coming years. Now, coming to today's address, I would like to cover 3 subjects. One is the economy, 2 is the immense potential in the housing sector, and lastly, the corporate governance landscape in India. Let me first start with my views on both the global as well as the Indian economy. The last 3 years have been a challenging period for all of us, as devastating and unprecedented non-economic forces such as the pandemic and its countless variants and the Russia-Ukraine war are reshaping the economies all over the world. After an extremely difficult 2020 during the pandemic, global economies began their recovery, with the IMF estimating that during 2021, global GDP grew by 6.1%, though admittedly off a low base. This was the fastest percentage growth in almost 50 years. The expansion of the global economy in 2021 was broad-based. Most advanced economies grew strongly, bolstered by the easing of several pandemic-related restrictions and a very accommodative fiscal and monetary policy in most countries. But just as global GDP was showing signs of a strong 2022, the Russia-Ukraine war dealt a body blow to these prospects. Oil prices soared and at one point of time reached a high of $139 per barrel in March 2022 from under $80 a barrel at the start of the calendar year. Further supply-side disruptions caused food prices to soar, particularly wheat prices. All these factors began to put significant pressure on inflation all over the world. As a result, inflation rose to multi-decade highs in most advanced economies and was in the range of 7 to 10%. Initially, it was thought that the high inflation was transitory in nature and was reflective of increased prices for a small number of pandemic-related items. However, inflation has proved to be persistent and has continued to broaden and rise over time, forcing the central banks in most countries to adopt a very aggressive policy of hiking interest rates. For example, the US Fed has so far increased its key benchmark interest rate by as much as 525 basis points since March of 2022. In most major economies, the monetary policy tightening measures by central banks to combat the cost of living crisis is now beginning to bear fruit. While one cannot say that the upward interest rate cycle is completed, the jumbo interest rate increases that we saw in advanced economies have certainly slowed down. There is now greater confidence that inflation will over time taper down and eventually revert nearer the target rate as set by the respective central banks. Positively, oil prices have to a great extent stabilized. China's economy has rebounded to some extent. Broken supply chains are on the mend, and the war-induced dislocations to food and energy prices are also beginning to recede. Unfortunately, in March 2023, sentiment suddenly took a temporary downward spiral with the turbulence seen in the US and European banking sector. Fortunately, regulators stepped in and ensured that the crisis was controlled. However, this did bring back painful memories of the global financial crisis of 2008 and reinforced the view that financial systems have become extremely fragile when trust and confidence is eroded. For a brief period of time, as a result of heightened social media activity, as well as due to the ease of doing digital transactions, the run on bank deposits in the US was accelerated. This put a lot of stress on certain banks. Regulatory intervention was necessary to bring things under control. In hindsight, it is now widely accepted that the recent US banking turbulence stemmed from ignoring interest rate risks for too long. Against this uncertain global backdrop, India has increasingly been in the spotlight for being amongst the fastest growing major economies in the world. I'm extremely optimistic about the future of the Indian economy. India's economic growth has surpassed global expectations as it was better able to manage its economy due to a confluence of factors such as sound government policies, strong macroeconomic fundamentals, inherent domestic demand, an extremely successful vaccination drive, timely regulatory interventions, and continued reforms which have ensured India's long-term growth. In recent years, India's economic growth has surpassed expectations. For instance, during the peak of the pandemic in financial year 2021, India's GDP contracted by 6.6% compared to the estimate of a contraction of as much as 9.5%. At the onset of COVID-19, RBI was proactive with its monetary easing and liquidity support. The RBI needs to be commended for the host of measures it introduced at that time. During the peak of the COVID crisis, in order to augment liquidity in the system, the RBI reduced the reverse repo rate, cut the cash reserve ratio requirement, conducted targeted long-term repo operations, and introduced refinancing facilities to financial institutions. The gradual lifting of restrictions by states saw both demand and consumer confidence come back strongly from September or October of 2020. Despite the threat of Omicron variant in January 2022 and the subsequent Russia-Ukraine war, India posted a strong growth of 9.1% in financial year 2022. Foreign investors are acknowledging India's growth prospects. In financial year 23, India's GDP grew by 7.2%. India as an emerging market clearly stands out. The World Bank has estimated that India's GDP growth will be around 6.3 to 6.5% during the current year. This will ensure that India remains the fastest growing large economy in the world. The onset of the Russia-Ukraine war saw spiraling oil prices and inflation started hitting the Indian economy from April 2022. RBI reined in inflation through a series of calibrated measures. RBI has increased the repo rate by 250 basis points since May of 2022 to 6.5% currently. To further contain inflation, RBI has focused on withdrawing excess liquidity in a gradual and non-disruptive manner. As a result of such measures, average surplus liquidity has steadily fallen from 7.8 trillion in January-February of 2022 to 1.7 trillion in April-May of 2023. Core inflation has largely been controlled. However, there was a sharp increase in the recent July 2023 CPI data. This was largely attributed to a very sharp increase in vegetable and cereal prices. Inflation, however, is expected to moderate in the coming months. The Finance Ministry also needs to be commended for not becoming overzealous in its stimulus package during the pandemic. If India had not kept the fiscal balance in check during the pandemic, inflation levels could have been out of control, as we are currently witnessing in several developed economies. In my opinion, both the government as well as the RBI did an excellent job in managing the economy during the last 3 years, and particularly during the COVID period. This has contributed in a significant manner in making India the fastest growing major economy in the world. I truly believe that there is no better place than India to be in right now. I talk to international investors regularly, and during my interaction with them, the feedback about India is extremely positive. The image of India has improved by leaps and bounds, and a major part of this positive image stems from the efforts being made to improve the business environment by bringing in greater transparency through a stable and fair regulatory framework. India as an emerging market clearly stands out from the others. Foreign investors acknowledging India's growth prospects and are appreciating the policy measures that are being implemented. These policies are aimed at improving the day-to-day lives of people and capitalizing on geopolitically triggered shifts wherein India can become a preferred destination in the supply chain of major global companies. There is also a huge thrust on digitization across all sectors of the economy, particularly the financial sector. There are several important indicators which reflect India's strength in the global economy. There is no other economy in the world that currently has the capacity to absorb the scale of investments that India can, or has the growth potential that India offers. I would like to highlight just some of these strengths. Firstly, India has favorable demographics. India accounts for 17% of the world's population, or 1 out of every 6 persons in the world is an Indian. More importantly, 66% of this population is under the age of 35 years. India's middle class is estimated to rise from 250 million individuals currently to 800 million by 2030. India is a domestic consumption-based economy. Private consumption forms 60% of the economy. According to a report by Morgan Stanley, India will become the 3rd largest economy by 2030. It is estimated that the number of households with incomes in excess of Rs 30 lakhs per annum will rise 5-fold to 25 million by 2031. Further, the per capita income is expected to rise from $2,300 currently to $5,200 by 2031. India is poised to become the 3rd largest consumer market behind US and China. Consumer spending in India is expected to grow from $1.5 trillion at present to nearly $6 trillion by 2030. There is strong growth in high-frequency indicators such as e-way bills, railway freight, highway toll collections, and GST collections. GST collections, for example, have grown by 11% year-on-year to 1.65 trillion rupees in July of 2023. GST collections have now been over rupees 1 trillion for 25 consecutive months. Bank credit in India has picked up over the past year and has remained in double digits since April 2022. In January 2023, the overall bank credit grew by nearly 16% compared to 14% in the previous year. Retail credit growth was strong as well, with personal loans growing by 20.9% and housing loans by 15%. The Indian banking system has been very resilient. Since March 2021, there has been a steady decline in the NPA ratios of banks. NPAs have declined from 7.3% in March of 2021 to a decade low of 3.9% in March 2023. The balance sheets of the corporate sector are now significantly stronger with lower level of leverage. The RBI is being acknowledged globally for its extremely effective supervision of the Indian financial sector and for guiding economic growth without the high inflation that Western countries are facing. India's foreign exchange reserves are at a very comfortable level of 595 billion as of end June 2023, which covers over 10 months of import. This makes India the fourth largest holder of reserves after China, Japan, and Switzerland. Further, India achieved record remittances from non-resident Indians, which touched as much as $107 billion in financial year 2023. Financial penetration in India is extremely low, which implies a huge potential for growth. For example, the mortgage to GDP ratio in India stands at 11%, compared to 20 to 30% in most East Asian economies, 69% in the UK, and over 52% in the US. Insurance penetration in India stands at 4.2% of GDP, compared to a global average of 7% of GDP. Similarly, India's mutual fund penetration is 16% of GDP, compared to 149% in the US and 75% in the UK. This means that with a population of 1.4 billion people, barely over 2% invest in mutual funds and equities. The potential to grow, therefore, is enormous. Flagship government programs such as the JAM Treaty have helped in implementing direct benefit transfers on a massive scale. The introduction of unified payment interface that allowed customers to make digital payments using a smartphone is helping India to transform into a cashless society. UPI is the most preferred payment product by volume, accounting for 75% of the total transactions in FY 2023. According to a report by Pricewaterhouse, UPI will achieve a milestone of 1 billion daily transactions by financial year 2027. Lastly, India is expected to be a 1 trillion digital economy in FY 2027. This will be one-fifth of the total economy at that time. The one key challenge that India faces is its dependence on oil. The trajectory of oil prices always needs to be watched, as India imports 85% of its oil requirement and is the third largest importer of oil in the world. Oil prices have a direct impact on both inflation, the current account deficit, as well as the GDP. A $10 increase in oil prices reduces GDP by as much as between 30 to 40 basis points. Similarly, for every $10 increase in oil prices, inflation is estimated to increase by as much as 37 basis points and current account deficit by close to 30 basis points. Thus, the oil import bill has a very large influence on India's current account balance. To conclude this section, I do believe that India's pace of reforms will continue. Sound regulatory policies and implementing structural reforms will help India attain even faster economic growth in the years to come. I will now come to the second part of my talk by providing an overview of the immense potential in the housing and real estate sector in India. The housing and real estate sector holds the key for unlocking the potential of the Indian economy. Housing is one of the largest employment generators in the economy, with linkages to nearly 300 industries, both in terms of direct jobs and the jobs created in ancillary industries such as cement, steel, paint, power, and so on and so forth. According to India's economic survey, nearly 90% of the workforce in the real estate sector are engaged in the construction of buildings. Also, over 80% of the employment in the real estate and construction sector constitutes minimally skilled workers. The confluence of improved affordability, relatively stable property prices, and continued fiscal benefits has helped homeowners. The pandemic made people recognize the need for additional space at home. As they moved up the property ladder, they are now shifting to larger homes. During the period 2016 end till the third quarter of 2020, the demand for housing was largely in the Tier 2 and Tier 3 towns. Demand from the more affluent parts of the major metro cities was relatively subdued at that point of time. Affordability, however, improved a lot between 2016 and 2020, as house prices in metros generally remained unchanged or even came down a little bit, while income levels of people continued to rise. If one assumes an average rise of annual income by about 7 to 8%, then over a 3 to 4 year time frame between 2016 and 20, incomes would have increased by more than 30%. With higher incomes and almost similar property prices as before, affordability obviously improved. This, coupled with the feel-good factor in the economy, as well as higher equity valuations in the stock market, fueled the demand for housing in the metros since the third quarter of 2020. Currently, the demand for housing is generally coming from all over the country. Due credit should be given to both the central and the state governments for introducing progressive policies for the housing sector. As per our estimates, the period from 2020 till date has arguably been one of the best periods in terms of affordability in over 2.5 decades. Around 25 years ago, it would have taken 22 times a person's annual income to be able to afford a modest-sized home in most big cities in India. Today, this affordability ratio has improved to about 3.5 times the annual income. In addition, fiscal benefits by the government have also played a key role in encouraging people to borrow money to buy a house. Interest paid on a housing loan is eligible for a deduction to the extent of Rs 1,50,000. In addition, the principal repayment of a housing loan is also eligible along with other avenues of saving for a deduction of up to Rs 2 lakhs. Despite the rise in interest rates, the latest available data shows that residential property sales as well as housing loans by banks are rising in double digits year on year. The rise of remote working has undoubtedly boosted demand for properties across India, including Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. With the government's focus on making India a global manufacturing hub, and with the development of industrial corridors, the opportunities for real estate development have increased manifold. There is growing demand for new real estate assets such as warehousing, fulfillment centers, data centers, hospitality and lab offices, amongst others. I'm very optimistic about the future of the housing sector as demand for housing remains insatiable in a country like India, which has a huge housing shortage estimated at something like 29 million units. There is a tremendous potential for growth in housing loans as the penetration level of mortgages in India is extremely low compared to other countries. The mortgage to GDP ratio in India stands at 11% and is still very low compared to our peers like China, Malaysia, and significantly lower than much of the Western world, where mortgage to GDP ratio stands at over 50%. Urbanization in India is an irreversible trend. Currently, 32% of the population reside in cities, and this is expected to rise to 40% by 2030. The structural demand for housing in India will always be strong due to factors such as improved affordability, government's trust on affordable housing, favorable demographics, increasing urbanization, and rising aspirations. 2/3 of India's population is below 35 years of age. And unlike the West, in India, people do not buy a house when they are in their 20s. The average age of a first-time home buyer in India is generally between 37 and 39 years. And with 2/3 of the population being below 35 years of age, what it really means is that 2/3 of the population has not even contemplated, has not even thought of buying a house. However, over the next 5, 10, 15 years, all these younger people will get to an age where they will necessarily have to buy a house. Therefore, in my view, there will be a structural long-term demand for housing and therefore housing finance in the country. Data over the years has clearly shown that housing loans have much lower defaults and consequently a much better credit risk profile compared to other kinds of personal loans. Most middle-income people who take a loan to buy a house are genuine end users and intend to stay in the house that they purchase. Home loan borrowers generally put in a fairly large component of their own funds as their equity in the property and then finance the balance amount with a housing loan. In India, housing loans are on an average for a tenure of about 12 to 13 years. The loans are repaid through equated monthly installments which have a principal and interest component. The lender therefore begins to receive a part of the principal amount back as soon as the loan is disbursed. As a result, the effective duration of a housing loan gets reduced to around 7 years. Most Indians prefer to prepay their housing loans in part or full as soon as they can, either out of bonuses that they may receive or any other windfall gain. This helps to further reduce the effective duration of a housing loan to about between 5 and 5.5 years. To conclude this section, I remain very positive on the housing and real estate sector in India. The India of today wants development, jobs and growth, and it is good to see that the policymakers are rising to fulfill its people's aspirations. Let me now come to the third and last part of my talk, which is on corporate governance. Corporate governance is often looked upon as a means to measure how well companies are run. Investors use corporate governance tools to judge the quality of a company's management and the effectiveness of its board. It is now widely accepted by companies that sound principles of governance are a necessary tool for the long-term development and sustainability. The regulatory framework in India is aimed at enhancing fairness and transparency, strengthening the role of independent directors, and ensuring active participation in board meetings, promoting diversity, addressing accounting and auditing issues, improving disclosure standards, and protecting shareholder interest. A majority of Indian companies are fully aware that sound principles of corporate governance are a necessary tool for their development and sustainability. In this regard, several Indian companies have tried to imbibe international best practices in corporate governance. I would like to emphasize that many Indian companies have done well over the years in terms of maintaining governance standards, and many have done so voluntarily, driven by internal policies and the desire to do the right thing. There is recognition in India that companies committed to good governance have a distinct competitive advantage along with enhanced reputation and investor trust. Global investors are extremely cautious in identifying the companies where they invest. One of their main focus areas is good governance. These investors are willing to pay a huge premium to companies where governance practices are perceived to be strong. As a result, a majority of Indian companies are aware that robust governance has a premium, and if their policies and practices fail to meet high ethical standards, they will be exposed to serious reputational risks and even business failure. No doubt in India, we have had our share of corporate governance setbacks over the last decade. However, there are also several examples of leading corporate houses that have stood the test of time, created wealth, diversified their businesses, haven't compromised on their core values, and have preserved a culture of accountability. I would like to talk about 6 corporate governance trends that have got traction in India in recent times. The first of these trends is risk management. The effectiveness of a board can be measured by the checks and balances it has in place, as well as by its risk management systems. Risk management is about preparing for an uncertain future. The pandemic proved that unexpected disasters can indeed occur. Having come through this difficult period, boards and senior leaders need to assess if their organization's crisis management plans were up to the challenges that they faced. The need for long-term strategic thinking cannot be overemphasized. Boards that have a long-term view have always been able to help their organizations emerge stronger after every crisis. The age-old saying that the best risk management framework is one that fortifies the balance sheet in good times so as to create sufficient ammunition to tackle a downturn held true during the pandemic. The second trend is the importance of independent directors. More is expected of today's independent directors than ever before, as the business landscape has become far more complex. Boards are having to deal with complex issues such as economic uncertainty, market volatility, ESG issues, climate-related issues, rapid changes in technology, cybersecurity, investor activism, and regulatory and media scrutiny. A board can operate at an optimum level only if it has truly independent members. The difference between a good board and a great one is the quality of the directors sitting around the table. Independent directors carry a unique responsibility of being a conduit between the various stakeholders and the management of a company. In other words, they are the gatekeepers of compliance and governance. The responsibilities placed on independent directors has been gradually increasing over the years, and in my view will continue increasing in the coming years. The third trend is shareholder activism. which is becoming more and more pronounced across the world as also in India. Investors are becoming more assertive and feel empowered to demand action and disclosure on a growing number of topics. Failure to meet these demands is more likely than ever to result in activists voting against companies and individual directors at shareholder meetings. Globally, we are witnessing a spurt of high-profile instances where proxy advisors and investors are deciding the course a company should follow. Issues that have gained prominence include board composition, governance, sustainability, and shareholder engagement practices. Other common issues revolve around the appointment of directors, reconstitution of the board, CEO pay packages, and exploring strategic alternatives. Going forward, boards will need to actively understand the concerns of key shareholders. Companies will need to ensure that their governance standards are frequently evaluated and strictly followed to prevent activists from exploiting weaknesses or inconsistencies. Constant communication with investors will be vital in maintaining shareholder confidence. The fourth trend is ESG. Increasingly, some investors and proxy advisors are actively monitoring board oversight and responsiveness to ESG factors and comparing a company's ESG performance to that of its peers. Over the last 2 to 3 years, some of the largest asset management have vowed to champion the ESG cause. They voted in favor of many environmental and social shareholder resolutions and are holding board members responsible for not reporting ESG risks. As the expectations from boards on what they are doing for ESG continues to evolve, directors should work with management to identify the material ESG risks and opportunities faced by the company and work to integrate these considerations into the organization's strategic and operational decision-making. The fifth theme is the rising expectations from the board. In today's scenario, directors have to keep pace with continual technological disruptions such as cybersecurity, digital transformation, cloud, and so on and so forth. They are expected to advise the management on how to cope up with these challenging times. Boards will need to evaluate how their board composition reflects the stakeholder base and ensure that the members possess the appropriate competences needed to oversee strategic opportunities and risks. The sixth and last theme is board effectiveness. Directors are now having to consider an increasingly broad range of issues. There is pressure on boards to limit the number of external mandates a person can take so as to get a greater degree of commitment from the director. Boards are striving to improve the quality of their board evaluation and are developing approaches to engage with investors on board effectiveness. Formal board evaluation is now beginning to be embraced by many organizations. Let me now conclude, and in conclusion, let me say that the macroeconomic fundamentals in India remain very strong. Consumption trends will sustain, and India should continue to leverage its strength in technology. India is continuing to climb up the growth ladder. I remain extremely optimistic about India's economy. India is a strong domestic consumption-based economy, and penetration levels, particularly in financial services, are so low in India that the scope for businesses to grow and banks to grow remains immense. Several global industry leaders have unanimously said that India is probably the most attractive destination today for foreign capital. India's young population offers a great opportunity for growth. In that sense, we are far less dependent on global factors than most other countries. I truly believe that as long as we continue to focus on financial sector reforms and enabling policies, India will continue to grow from strength to strength on the global stage. Let me at the end once again thank Mr. Ghosh, thank Bandhan Bank, and congratulate all of you on this occasion. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. K.K. Mistry. An insightful speech like the one he just delivered always leaves the audience captivated. It is always a pleasure to hear you speak. We would request Mr. Mistry to please come up on the stage as we move to the next part of the evening. We would request Mr. Ghosh to join Mr. Mistry on the stage for fireside chat. We would also like to invite on stage the moderator of the chat this evening, Mr. Siddharth Sanyal, who is the Chief Economist of Bandhan Bank. Okay, so the stage is all set for an absolutely enlightening discussion. Over to Mr. Sanyal.
Hello. Thank you very much, Manita. Hello. And thanks to everyone for this particular, who are here in this particular gathering. Thanks to Mr. Mistry, thanks to Mr. Ghosh. And Mr. Mistry, if we take cues from the speech that you just delivered, really a captivating one, and you clearly highlighted the strengths you foresee in case of the Indian economy. My question will be, if you see some of the risks, what are the risks you see in this particular journey, what we should be careful about, maybe for policymakers, for business professionals, for individuals, what are the risks we should also be aware of?
First of all, I think the biggest strength of the Indian economy is the fact that we are a domestic consumption economy. And we have so many young people in India. Penetration levels are so very, very low. I'll come to risks, but penetration levels are so low that whatever happens, growth in the economy will always be there, particularly for the banking sector. Because any product you look at mortgages to GDP, look at credit card to GDP, look at anything, the penetration levels are very low, so the growth will continue for a long time. I think the biggest risk, if you ask me, for India is the risk of oil. We are a large importer of oil. Climate is another risk. I think, to me, apart from policies, let's assume policy measures continue the way they have been for the last decade. Let's take that for granted. I think the two big risks are oil, geopolitical risks, which could cause oil prices to spurt. And the other big risk is climate, because India does have a large part of the economy coming from agriculture. Rains have been all over the world have been very erratic. The El Nino effect is taking shape. Nobody knows where the climate situation is going to be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the line. So that poses a risk, because we have a young population. As a young population, we have to feed people. The production of food should not get impacted. Agriculture should continue growing. So I think these, to my mind, are the risks that we face. And the other is, of course, creation of jobs. As we are a young country, there are so many people passing out from schools and colleges every year, and it's therefore critical that we create jobs for these people. Fortunately, we've been able to do that.
Sir, one particular question coming on the risk side, only coming to the near term. In the beginning of this particular year, we had seen in the global arena a significant banking crisis unfolding. Eventually, as you also mentioned, that got arrested relatively quickly. But where exactly, from your vantage point, how exactly you see it there, whether any further risk related to that still remain?
I think, first of all, as far as India is concerned, we have been very, very insulated. And I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, mean that. I think the level of supervision that we have from RBI is phenomenal. To my mind, there is no regulator globally which is regulating the financial market with as much closeness as RBI is doing. We cannot take the kind of asset liability mismatches that the American banks were taking. And therefore, to that extent, the risk to India from that event is almost non-existent. Globally, I think the world has to recognize that interest rates cannot remain at one level. You cannot have a situation where you borrow money short because you have a sharp yield curve. You borrow money short, you lend money long, expecting that interest rates will remain low forever. So you'll continue refinancing your liabilities and using those liabilities to generate long-term loans. It can't happen like that. In every economy, interest rates will go up and interest rates will come down. And therefore, you have to have a matched balance sheet. And I think the quicker that realization penetrates the Western countries, I think the better it will be and the lower the risk to the global economy. But India was not affected. I repeat, we were not. I'm on the board of TCS, and TCS has very large foreign currency transactions. So every single moment we were monitoring almost every single bank on what they were doing in terms of CDR spreads and so on and so forth. We didn't see any risk in India at all.
And another question, you mentioned if there is any particular, some of the risks, one particular risk is how fast we are creating jobs to take care of our young population. A related thing can be potential inequality in the economy also. How exactly you seeing that? You seeing we are improving on that particular count, or that still remains a big challenge?
I think the inequality in the economy is changed over time, and I think Mr. Ghosh can talk a lot more about the efforts that Bandhan, for example, has taken in terms of making sure that the underprivileged are given the ability to do things.
Sir, absolutely. That is possibly that is a potent area for you to come in. How exactly you see this particular, how the economy is changing, whether we are taking care of the poorer sections better, bottom of the pyramid is better taken care of at this moment. How exactly you see it?
No, if you see that am I audible? Okay. A couple of case studies have been shown in here. How the people started with a small ticket size of the money and which level they are coming on that. So this is the showing on that the main focus we should be like to give how we develop the more entrepreneur in India, and it should be like to focus in rural and semi-urban, and people are automatically coming to that level and change their life and created huge employment on that. So if you see that one entrepreneur's development, average 5 to 10 employment they can create in India. So this is the one way we can be like to Indian economic growth contribution. If we like to reach on that level, develop the entrepreneur, create the new employment, huge. Second point on that, when this level income increases a per capita, automatically national per capita income is increased. And it has been coming very quick. Because in the 1 crore, the people is a 10,000 rupees income increase. It cannot be compared with the rich people or industrialists created 1,000 people employment. That is more than that impact will come. So that will be like to, people have that, I feel that in the Bengal perspective on that, many people talked about that the people are not interested in the business. But last couple of months I have been, lot of meet, I have been get the chance, I saw that a lot of people now interested in a business, not in a job. Even some people have been lost, they have been left the job and started the enterprise. And very successfully they are running. So many of these examples have in our country. We should be create that example with the eyes of the new generation, which is the youth people, is a large number of population is coming. They will be start on this type of enterprise, and that entrepreneurs will be like to create a new job. That will be like the future of India.
So that's a brilliant answer. Sir, if I just come back to you once more, Mr. Minister really highlighted how the macro fundamentals look to be lined up so well for India. You elaborated on how the bottom of the pyramid is moving higher, aspiring higher, achieving better, higher levels. Against that backdrop, Bandhan has come against that backdrop. Now Bandhan has completed 8 years. What do you see for Bandhan in store over the course of the next maybe 2-3 years?
No, if you see that the 8 years before, Bandhan started one of the corner of the India, which is very much neglected in the geography, is East India. Nobody believed on that. There is a financial service is needed to the Eastern India. That we born. And born with a very small ticket size of microcredit. Now we are reached to the Kargil. We reached to this, the Ladakh. You see that how much reach within 8 years have been done. This small organization is across the country. And all states and union territories we have been reached and provide the services. Not only that, if you see that within 8 years, we are serving to the defense, means the army, we are serving to the navy, we are serving to this, the Tirupati temple, we are serving to the Dakshineshwar temple. So we are serving to the bottom of the pyramid of the customer. So how rich we have been reached. And this is a huge opportunities of our country to reach. So this is in 8 years if we can be reach in this level of these people or level of this the organization and created that the more than 1 lakh of crore of the deposit, which is maximum are the granular. So that is a big opportunities of India. And we like to reach every door of the country citizen. And not to that, you wake up and you come to this, the financial services access and build up your enterprise. And this isn't huge. We cannot be like to quantify how much we can be. If I say that the 3 crores of the customer, so how much is a customer in the 8 years before? It's a 50 lakhs. 2.5 crores customer added within 8 years, within this pandemic, within demand, which is GST, every challenge has come. But after that also reach. That means the next 8 years or 10 years, huge opportunities of the bank to reach to the people to give these financial services. Not only that, if you see, one of the customer are mentioned many things in here. They are started with a business. Now started housing, they are asking to the shelter for housing. They are asking the personal loan. So there is a multiple demand has come. So consumer demand, which is sir mentioned about it, the country consumer demand has increased very rapidly. If you like to meet up on that, you should be build up that bank very strong, backup support, IT support, and reach the people. You are unlimited level you can be grow on that. So Bandhan is like to do it.
That is really, really encouraging to hear. Sir, if I come back to you and no amount of discussion about housing industry is enough when you were around, my one question will be, today is 2023. If I try to look back and summarize last 20 years, 2003 to 2013, just in terms of asset prices or the prices of this particular asset class, asset prices in the housing segment really rallied very significantly. On the other hand, 2013 to 2023, point to point, they are almost flat more often than not. Do you think the attractiveness of housing as an investment or asset class, because of this particular factor, will take a bit of a beating?
No, I don't think so. I genuinely do not think so. I think housing creates jobs in the economy. It is the second largest, and I'll come back to specifics on why you talked of 2013 to 23. But housing creates jobs in the economy, and it creates jobs for a category of people which is very, very critical, because we have so many of such people who need, for whom job creation is important. The jobs are created not just in the construction sector, but in a multitude of industries which have some linkage to the housing sector. Cement, steel, paint, power, multiple ancillary industries which make nuts and bolts and million other things which go into the building of a house. So I don't think that is correct at all. Now, coming specifically to your question on prices, I think the period up to 2013 or 2014 was a period when the regulatory framework for housing in India was somewhat slack. So in the sense that there was transparency was not there. A builder would tell you that I'm going to give you whatever 1,000 square feet, and in reality when you measured the apartment it was only whatever 600 square feet or 500 square feet. So transparency was not there.
So there was need for a lot of transparency and a lot of regulatory intervention to be brought into the housing market. So the period, I would say, from 2016 to 2017 saw major changes in the housing sector. Major changes in terms of improving the quality of the disclosures, quality of governance in the housing sector, which obviously resulted in some of the smaller builders falling apart, not being able to complete their projects. But what has happened after 2017-18 is that you now have a much stronger sector, a much more closely regulated sector, and a much more transparent sector in terms of what what you are promised and what you will get. 3-4 events happened. Demonetization happened in 2016. Real Estate Regulatory Act came in. GST came in. Many things happened which had an impact on the real estate sector. So 2016 onwards, things slowed down in the real estate sector, and I would say that slowdown continued till 2020. Then came the pandemic, and with the onset of COVID, in a city like Mumbai, where I come from, it's a very common phenomenon that you will have 8, 9, 10 people staying in a 300 square feet apartment or a 400 square feet apartment. If 3 people or 4 people are working from home, which they were during the pandemic, where is the privacy? If one person gets COVID, it just spreads to the entire family. So suddenly COVID made it more imperative for people to look for bigger and larger homes. That, coupled with the fact that from 2016 to 2020, house prices did not go up at all. If anything, they came down. In the metros, I'm talking of the metros. I'm talking of Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, maybe Calcutta. House prices remained the same or came down, but people's income levels kept rising. People kept earning 7 to 8% increase in incomes generally across the country. So within 4 years, from 16 to 20, income levels were 30 to 35% higher, with similar level of property prices. So affordability improved. Then also another thing that happened was that many states realized that housing was very important for getting people back into the city to start factories. You see, many of these factories have local workers who come from far-off villages. And with COVID, all of them went back to their native places. The lockdown restrictions were lifted. Businesses wanted to start, construction or sites wanted to start. Manufacturers wanted to produce things, but the workers were not there. So what many states did is they came out with policies which encourage people to buy houses. For example, in Maharashtra, again, I'm talking of Mumbai, stamp duty was dropped from 5% to 2% for a temporary period. So all that created that spur of demand in housing. And that has continued unabated from 2020 to 2023. So if you compare point to point, 2013 to 23, prices may be broadly the same in the metros. But if you take 2013 to 17, prices may actually have come down. And then if you compare from 21 to 23, prices have actually moved back up.
That's a very interesting perspective indeed, sir. I'll come to Mr. Ghosh about the experience of housing at the bottom end of the pyramid. But before that, sir, one just follow-up question with you. Do you see the attractiveness to be even on the housing sector across the spectrum, at the lower end, middle segment, upper end? Each
segment of the market, whether it is the lower end, middle level, upper level, super upper level, whatever it is, has its own need for housing. Housing is a necessity for every individual in the country. A person who from a lower strata may look for a smaller house, a less expensive house. Someone from the upper strata may look for super expensive houses, but the demand is going to be there from everyone.
Sir, if I come to you on that particular note, we have a very significant housing portfolio at the moment also. And we have expanded after the inorganic growth, we have expanded it organically, not only across geography, but also we entered or expanded more on the prime segment as well as in the micro housing loan segment. The micro housing loan segment in case of Bandhan Bank is quite unique. So if you share the experience of the micro home loan segment and what is the potential you see there, I think that will be very interesting for the audience.
So, as per the very small experience, the expert is in chemistry in front of him. I cannot be comments on that, the housing loan per se on that. But a housing loan, this is a very huge demand, and increasing rural is more coming on that. But what we see that the 3 years before I started is a micro housing loan. And the people have a demand is very small ticket size, like on that, the average of 5 lakhs, like on that. And these the people are maximum are the self-employed. They are not in a salary based on that. But salary is there, but very small bucket of that salary based on that. And whatever we build up this, the 3 years, the book, fantastic book. And quality of this, the portfolio compared to the affordable and the pay, is a very good. So there is a good demand on that. But challenge of this, the micro housing loan, whatever we see that, these people have the land problem. Land may be in the name of grandfather. They are getting it and that, not converted as in the name of them. Or till now is a father's name is there and four of the sons. They are not divided, but everyone are living on there. There is a couple of these things is a challenge. We've seen that. For that region, there is a demand, but we are not able to convert it on that demand. And second part on that coming, when the family is expanding the member. No, parents is there, now son is been married, there is a need on the another room, but there is a need, demand is coming on the sanitary latrine. So they have need on that 1 lakh, 2 lakh rupees of that loan. There is a good demand of that market. And across the country. So we see that the repayment rate is very good. So along with this, I said the affordable also is a very good demand. But this is another niche market, we've seen that. But Keki sir can be like to give on.
I would just add a little bit to what Mr. Ghosh said, that in HDFC from 1977 till 2023, over a period of 46 years, the total loan losses, money we wrote off, we could not recover, was 0.04% of what we disbursed. Not in 1 year, not in 2 years, not in 5 years, not in 10 years. In 46 years, cumulatively, 0.04%. That is the quality of a housing loan portfolio. Which is why the safest product in the country from an individual, lending to an individual is concerned, is by far a housing loan.
This is really amazing, sir. Sir, you wanted to say something? Yeah. This is really amazing. Sir, I would like to come back to you about, you mentioned about the economy, the housing segment, you mentioned about the prospects of the banking sector in India. But in general, how exactly you see how, if you can elaborate a little more, how exactly the regulation is helping banking, paving the way better for banking, I think that will add to the perspective.
See, first of all, when you talk of demand for a banking product, the demand is phenomenal. I said that in my talk. I'm saying that again. And I said that even when we started this discussion, that penetration level of any financial service product in India at this moment is extremely low and growing very rapidly. So for the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, I see growth for the banking industry. Now, coming to regulations, I also said that the level of supervision that we see today from the regulators, any regulator, in insurance, it is the IRDA, in banking, of course, it is RBI, in capital markets, it is SEBI. The level of supervision, the level of controls, the level of regulations that we have in India are stronger than what you would see even in the most advanced of countries. So it is unlikely that in India you will see something like what happened in the US a year ago, a few months ago, when you had the Silicon Valley Bank collapse. You will not see that because the regulations are so strong. Regulations are favorable for growth, but growth in a manner in which the risk is very adequately covered. And this question of risk is something which is discussed today in every single company's board meeting and was not being discussed 5 years ago. Today, I sit on boards of 9 companies. In almost every board meeting, there is some discussion on risk.
Right. That is really reassuring, sir. So we are towards the end of this particular session, but one particular point, we in case of every business, there is enhanced focus on ESG related issues. You also mentioned about the governance issues and why you were quite happy about the governance related issues, the way Indian organizations as well as the Indian banking sector is following. While on the challenges part, you mentioned about the environment related risks a bit. Overall, do you think the focus on ESG parameters, how exactly that will be acting for the prospects of Indian banking system going ahead over the next few years?
I think globally the focus on ESG is increased to a dramatic extent. And I think the pandemic made it even more focused than what it was before. If you go, we used to have investors from every part of the world.
Right.
But if you look at European investors, people who come from wherever, almost any part of Europe, including the UK, their focus on ESG is so phenomenal that there are ESG-related funds. And the quantum of money that these ESG-related funds are getting is just increasing by leaps and bounds. And these ESG funds can only invest in companies which meet certain ESG parameters. So focus on ESG is going to continue. ESG was always a focus in India. The focus was on governance and social. Now the focus is coming on environment. And the focus is coming more because of the climate-related issues that we are talking about, what you're reading in the newspapers, global warming, this whole El Niño effect, rains not being adequate, floods in certain places, various kind of climate-related issues which have suddenly become very, very high and can become even higher if you believe the scientists.
So we are almost towards the end of this particular session again. Maybe, sir, one last question to you. With the benefit of your long, illustrious career in the banking system, when you were here in the foundation day of an 8-year-old bank, what is your advice to all of us in this particular forum today?
I would say you've done a fabulous job, and I'm not saying this because it is your occasion. I've said this publicly in various platforms in Mumbai, in various talks also, that we need more Bandhan banks in India, because we need to have someone who serves to the underprivileged, the underserved. So I think you've done a fabulous job, and you have a phenomenal growth potential in the years to come. So I would just say the growth opportunities are huge. You should focus on growth. You should also focus on risk systems. I'm sure you are doing that. Focus on risk systems. Make sure that the risk systems are truly in place, because when you do the kind of lending that we all do in the financial sector, there is always a risk associated with it. So how well you manage that risk, how well you communicate that to investors is very important. But I think India needs many, many more Bandhan banks in the years to come. We, ironically, in HDFC created competition. We started housing finance companies in partnership with banks. Today, in today's world, no one can think of it. But we partnered with, for example, Bank of Baroda to start a housing finance company. We partnered with Central Bank of India to set up a housing finance company in certain parts of the country. I'm talking of the 90s, when we were 10 years or 12 years old. Because we think that India as a whole, we as HDFC alone could not have served the whole country in terms of need. So we needed many more HDFCs. Similarly, I think we need, what Bandhan has done is phenomenal. Your growth is going to be phenomenal, but you need many more entities like Bandhan Bank to serve the people of the country.
Thank you for your good suggestion. Just I'd like to mention 1-2 points on that. What is the bank? I've been within 8 years I've been done. Again, I've been going to start as a headquarters till now in Calcutta. We recently have been bought a 40,000 square feet office, one office in BKC for next to corporate office. We have a 65,000 square feet, another office in Bombay for back office to support of the growth. We have been again set up one big office other than the branch in Delhi in front of central government, because we have been very good business doing with the income tax department. and Minister of Finance. And we are also having the big, because of that Ahmedabad is a big premises for our bank for service to this across the country. So this type of, we are started in a one corner, but we are across the country to the branch, but other setup also we have been set up. We have that AP has the separate one of the backup office, we have been established on that. Delhi, we have the backup office is established on that to serve the customer, any type of service they have need on that. You are correctly mentioned on that. We like to believe on that will be strengthen the back office and strengthen the discipline and build up the senior management and the total team members. They are skilled and because without the best skill, the car driver cannot be like to drive in a speedy mode on that. So that is we are looking on that. So thank you your service suggestion on that.
So it was really, really great to hear what Mr. Mistry said. And when an endorsement coming from none other than someone like Mr. Keki Mistry on our journey so far, it means a lot to us. The timer is almost close to zero, so we have to stop it here. Otherwise, it could have gone for really long. But one very interesting thought from my end, that you said, sir, that this particular country needs possibly many more Bandhan banks. This is something we are reminded by our MD, Mr. Ghosh, every day in our office, and it's great to see that this is coming, that the same thought is coming from you also again today. Thank you very much once again, Mr. Mistry, Mr. Ghosh, thank you very much. We close this particular session here today. Thank you.
There are some discussions that all of us wish should not end. We just had one such discussion on stage. Mr. Mistry's presence among us has been truly inspiring. We would now request Mr. Ghosh to present a token of appreciation on behalf of Bandhan Bank to Mr. Mistry. Thank you so much, Mr. Mistry, Mr. Ghosh. Once again, thank you, Mr. Mistry, Mr. Ghosh, and Mr. Sanyal, and we request you to take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, there is something very exciting that awaits all of us towards the end of the evening. Like each year, we will end Foundation Day celebration with an enthralling performance. And this year, few of you already know. For the rest of you, I am delighted to tell you that this year, we have India's foremost playback singer to perform in front of us. We have Shreya take stage.
We all heard Mr. Ghosh mention about Bandhan Bank's commitment to the CSR programs. The flagship program, targeting the hardcore poor program, has transformed many lives through the years. This program identifies the most economically distressed, empowers them to become entrepreneurs, and helps them develop sustainable livelihoods, enabling them to become a part of mainstream economy. This evening, we are privileged to have with us Ms. Piali Mondal, who has been a beneficiary of the Targeting the Hardcore Poor program. We now invite Pyari Di on stage to talk us through her journey of transformation.
পিয়ালি মণ্ডল উত্তর 24 পরগনা জেলার ভালুকা গ্রাম থেকে এসেছি। আমার বাবা মা খুবই গরিব ছিল, ছোটবেলা থেকে খুবই কষ্টে আমাকে মানুষ করেছে এবং আমার বাবা মা আমাকে খুবই কষ্ট করে আমাকে নগরুকরা নামে একটি গ্রামে বিয়ে দেয়। সেখানে গিয়ে আমি সংসার করি এবং 6 মাস পরে আমি জানতে পারি যে আমার স্বামী অন্য কোনো মহিলার সাথে তার সম্পর্ক ছিল এবং আমাকে শারীরিক ও মানসিকভাবে খুবই নির্যাতন করত। সেখান থেকে আমার শ্বশুর শাশুড়ি আমাকে কোনোদিনই সাপোর্ট করেনি, তারা তাদের ছেলেকেই বেশি সাপোর্ট করত এবং তারা আমাকে প্রাণে মারারও পরিকল্পনা করেছিল। তো ইতিমধ্যে আমার একটি কন্যা সন্তান জন্ম হয়। আমার সন্তানের বয়স যখন 11 মাস, তখন আমি তাদের অত্যাচার সহ্য না করতে পেরে আমি আমার সন্তানকে নিয়ে আমার বাপের বাড়িতে চলে আসি। আমার বাবা মা সেটাকে ভালো চোখে দেখেনি। আমার বাবা মা বিশ্বাস করত যে মেয়েদের আসল জায়গা তার শ্বশুর বাড়িতে। তো সেইখান থেকে আমার বাবা মার এই বিশ্বাসের কথা ভেবে আমি আমার ছোট্ট কন্যা সন্তানকে আমার ঠাকুমার কাছে রেখে আমি লোকের বাড়িতে কাজ করতাম। সেখান থেকে খুবই অল্প পয়সা আমি উপার্জন করতাম, সেটা দিয়ে আমার সংসারটা ঠিকভাবে চলতো না। এই সময় আমাদের গ্রামে বন্ধনের স্যাররা সার্ভে করে অসহায় মহিলাদের নিয়ে। সেইখানে স্যাররা আমার বাড়িতে যায় এবং আমাকে সাহায্য করবে বলে তারা বলেন এবং আমার খুবই প্রয়োজন ছিল তাদের সাহায্যটা এবং তাদের সাহায্যটা আমি গ্রহণ করি। তাদের কাছ থেকে তারা আমাকে 11,355 টাকার কসমেটিক্সের জিনিসপত্র দেন ব্যবসার জন্য এবং আমি সেই 11,355 টাকার কসমেটিক্সের জিনিসপত্র নিয়ে ব্যবসা করে আজকে সেই ব্যবসা আমি বর্তমানে 1,23,000 থেকে 25,000 মতো পুঁজিতে আমি আজকে দাঁড় করিয়েছি। সেই ব্যবসা প্রত্যেকটি মেলায় বসে করি, যেহেতু মেলায় আমার নগদ টাকার ব্যবসা হয়, ওই জন্য আমি আজকে এখানে ব্যবসাটাকে দাঁড় করাতে পেরেছি এবং এই ব্যবসা থেকে আমি আমার মেয়েকে প্রাইভেট স্কুলে পড়াচ্ছি, আমার মেয়েকে প্রাইভেট টিউশন পড়াচ্ছি। আমি আমার একটি ঘর করেছি, 1.5 লক্ষ টাকা খরচা করে আমি ঘর করেছি। আমি সোনার জিনিস তৈরি করেছি আমার মেয়ের। এমনকি আমি ভবিষ্যতে এই ব্যবসা থেকে আমার মেয়েকে যাতে আমি উচ্চশিক্ষায় শিক্ষিত করে নিজের পায়ে দাঁড় করাতে পারি এই চেষ্টাই করছি। ভবিষ্যতে যাতে আমার মেয়ে চাকরি বাকরি করে এবং আমি যাতে একটি প্রতিষ্ঠিত দোকান করতে পারি সেই চেষ্টাই আমি করছি। আজকে আমার এই উন্নতির পিছনে বন্ধনের স্যারদের অবদান অপরিসীম। তারা যদি আজকে আমাকে এই সাহায্য না করত, তাদের সাহায্য যদি আমি না পেতাম, আজকে আমি এতটা উন্নতি করতে পারতাম না। তাই আমি বলবো বন্ধনের স্যাররা যেভাবে আমাকে সাহায্য করেছে এইভাবেই যেন প্রত্যেকটি অসহায় মহিলাকে তারা সাহায্য করে। ধন্যবাদ।
Such an inspiring journey. Thank you, Pyali Di, for sharing your journey with us. We would like to invite Mr. Ghosh on stage and present a token of our appreciation to her. thank you for joining us on stage, Piyalidi. We would request Mr. Ghosh to please stay back on stage. We would also request Mr. K.K. Mistry and Dr. Sinha to join Mr. Ghosh on stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bandhan Bank has over 6,100 banking outlets spread across 35 states and union territories. The banking outlets consist of bank branches, banking units, and home loan centers. They are the main growth drivers for the bank and also the flag bearers of the Bandhan way of banking. In financial year 2023, while all banking outlets performed well, a few played out of their skins to show what exemplary performance is all about. Let us now recognize their efforts and, more importantly, results.
First, the best banking units. There are 3 awards in this category. I would request Mr. Vishal Wadhwa, Head Emerging Entrepreneurs Business, and Mr. Satyajit Ghosh, Head Banking Unit Vertical, to join the dignitaries on stage to hand over the award. To arrive at the best 3, banking units were ranked on various parameters like total loan outstanding, asset quality, and business. Now, we will declare the top 3 winners and would request the respective banking unit heads to come on stage to receive the certificate on behalf of the teams. In no particular order, starting with the banking unit from Siliguri, West Bengal, Siliguri Junction Banking Unit, we would request the banking unit head, Ms. Beauty Khanam, to come up on stage to receive the certificate.
I think Beauty and her team deserves a louder round of applause, please. Congratulations, Beauty and the team. All right, it's time to move on to the next award. It's time for us to move on to the next one. It is the banking unit from Ajmer, Rajasthan, Kishangarh Banking Unit. We would request the banking unit head, Mr. Jalam Singh, to come up on stage and receive the certificate on behalf of his entire team.
Let's hear it for the banking unit from Purnia, Bihar, Madhubani Banking Unit. We would request the banking unit head, Mr. Pankaj Kumar Sinha, to come up on stage to receive the certificate.
I think this achievement of receiving this award as being the top 3 among the thousands of banking outlets deserves a round of applause.
And Mr. Satyajit Ghosh.
It is now time for the best bank branches. Branches were ranked on performance parameters like quantum and quality of retail business, including total deposits, CASA deposits, revenue achievement, and audit scores, among others. To give away this award with the dignitaries on stage, I would like to call upon Mr. Shantanu Sengupta, Head Retail Banking, and Mr. Shujoy Roy, Head Branch Banking. And again, in no particular order, calling upon Bandhan branch from West Bengal. We would request the branch head, Mr. Subhamoy Chatterjee, to come up on stage and receive the certificate on behalf of his team. I think I see Shubhamoy walking up to the stage. Nice red colored tie and a jacket representing his entire team from the Bandhan branch.
It is the Bhuj branch. We would request the branch head, Mr. Navneet Thakkar, to come up on stage to receive the certificate.
Can we have a round of applause for Navneet and his team from the Bhuj branch? Last but definitely not least, it's the Chapadali More branch from Barasat in West Bengal. We would request the branch head, Mr. Amit Datta, to come up on stage and receive the certificate on behalf of his entire team at the Chapadali More branch.
Center. The best home loan center is Yalahanka from Bengaluru, Karnataka. We would request the branch head, Mr. Anil Kumar, to come on stage to receive the certificate.
And I would also like to request on stage Mr. Subhash Samant, if he's around, head of Housing Finance, to come up on stage and also be a part of the presenting party. Ladies and gentlemen, truly a pan-India bank, best branches, best banking units and best home loan centers from across the country being felicitated for their performance on the 8th Foundation Day of the bank. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, when you were coming into this hall right outside, you were asked a question, and which we recorded. The question was, what is the emotion that comes to your mind and heart when you hear about Bandhan Bank? We've put that in a video, and which we're going to show you right now. Can we have the video, please?
আমার কাছে বন্ধন ব্যাংক মানে হচ্ছে অনেকটাই মানে স্বাধীনতা।
বন্ধন ব্যাংক মানে একটা ভরসা,
মোস্ট ট্রাস্টেবল একটা ব্যাংক,
পুরোপুরি ভরসা করতে হবে।
बंधन बैंक काफी हेल्पफुल रही मेरे लिए।
বিশ্বাস, ভরসা এবং সুরক্ষা।
আমার কাছে বন্ধন ব্যাংক মানে স্বাধীনতা।
বন্ধন মানে আমার কাছে মানে পরিবারের মতন।
बंधन बैंक हमारे लिए परिवार की तरह है।
বন্ধন ব্যাংক আমাদের আশা ভরসা সবকিছু।
बंधन बैंक मतलब मेरा पास बहुत बड़ा भरोसा।
বন্ধন ব্যাংক আমার ভরসা এবং বন্ধন ব্যাংক আমার ঘর। বন্ধন ব্যাংক মানে আমার কাছে সুরক্ষা।
বন্ধন ব্যাংক হচ্ছে আমার কাছে একটা ভরসা থেকেও বেশি সুরক্ষা।
বন্ধন ব্যাংক আমার ভরসা।
Hospitality,
they trust. Bandhan Bank मेरा परिवार है.
जन्मों के बंधन जैसा है.
हमारे लिए जन्मों का बंधन है बंधन बैंक.
Trust, impact, inclusivity, relationship, and freedom. This is what you all, people who are so attached to Bandhan Bank, who've been invited to the 9th Foundation Day, 8th anniversary, you all said this. We've captured all these emotions because we knew that these are the emotions that people who are close to Bandhan carry. And we've made something special with someone special. Let's look at the video now.
Just wanting to pick your brain, Praveen and Sanjeev, is as to और क्या कर सकते हैं? What is it that we can pick up as properties that we can own? What is it that we can pick up as properties that we can own for the brand, which can then give us some leverage?
We have a strong visual. If we have a strong sound also, I think it's gonna work really well for our brand.
अगर हम इसको कर रहे हैं, what are the options? हम किसके पास जा सकते हैं ये करने?
Hello. Hey Apurva, hi. How are you? Yeah, good. Sir? Oh, thanks, yeah. Yeah, that's a damn good idea. Yeah.
To occupy, which is more modern, which is more about fulfillment, which is more freedom. You know, so that's the space that we would like.
The bigger हम लोग like for any film, any advertising we do, any films we do, any job we do, number one thing that everybody wants is stickiness. सेकेंड टाइम में थोड़े सी मुर्गियाँ थोड़ा सा एक रंग 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 अच्छा कुछ रंग 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 हल्का सा
देखो दो ऑप्शन सुना तो एक ये छोटा यूकुलेले एक चारंगो भी है दोनों Bandhan Bank.
क्या लग रहा है? तो ज्यादा अच्छा नहीं बन गया क्या? हाँ काफी अच्छा तो लग रहा है. क्या करे नहीं देगा? Listen to the call of Bandhan. You know what? Close your eyes and listen to this track. That's how you'll be able to appreciate it more.
Amit Trivedi, He said, what is going to play next? Close your eyes, listen to it. There's nothing on screen, it'll just be the Bandhan Bank logo, requesting all of you to close your eyes and listen to this, the call of Bandhan. We've tried to give a sonic identity to Bandhan Bank. This logo of Bandhan Bank is well recognized throughout the country. And we thought that we would add a little bit of music to it, something that people will remember Bandhan Bank by. You heard the track. We have a small video, one of the last ones, where we've tried to capture what this track stands for in context of Bandhan Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, you would be wondering how we're going to use this music piece. In the next few months, whenever you are at a touch point for Bandhan Bank where there is sound possible, this music piece in some form will appear in a short 1.5-second musical logo. For example, when you go to an ATM, complete your transaction, this is what you'll see. When you complete a transaction, 2 transactions, 3. I think the ATM is very happy. Okay, when you complete a transaction on M Bandhan, the mobile app, this is what you'll see. And not just that, when you call us on our customer care number and we have to check your details and we put your call on hold, this was what you'll hear.
Sir, may I put your call on hold, please?
Bandhan Bank, the special Bandhan with Bandhan Bank. So share this call of Bandhan. Let many people hear this. Let people enjoy this call of Bandhan. Here is a QR code. You can lift your mobile phone, switch on the camera, download the track if you want. If there's not enough time for you to scan the code right now, we have placed standees outside where you can download the call of Bandhan from. Make it your ringtone, send it to your friends and family. Let everyone enjoy the call of Bandhan. And talking about making it a ringtone, here's a special message from someone very special.
Bandhan Bank. Bandhan Bank. Nice, na? You like it? Go and make it your ringtone. Hello? Have boy. Nice, na? You like it? Go and make it your ringtone. Hello? Have boy.
The 40-second shorter version, pick whichever you want, make it your ringtone, because when Dada says something, we must do it, right? All right, so that, ladies and gentlemen, is the call of Bandhan. I hope you enjoyed listening to it, and I hope you'll enjoy it more when you start using it. Now, for the vote of thanks, may I request our chairman, Dr. Anu Kumar Sinha, to come to the stage.
Very good evening to all of you, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be here giving the vote of thanks on this very, very momentous day for all of us here. Mr. K.K. Mistry, Mr. Chandrasekhar Ghosh, board members of Bandhan Bank, investors, customers, employees, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being a part of the 8th anniversary celebration of Bandhan Bank. It is always a pleasure to hear Mr. Mistry speak from his heart on a topic that he is so passionate about. I'm sure I speak on behalf of all the members of the audience present here today or watching us live online. We are much wiser after listening to you, Mr. Mistry. The fireside chat between the two legends of financial services industry was captivating. A jugalbandi as powerful as this is not common, and I feel privileged to have witnessed it. Not only was the chat thought-provoking, it also gave deep insights on the economy and the financial services industry. Thank you, Siddharth, for moderating the fireside chat so well. Having been a part of panels myself, I know it's not an easy task to moderate, especially when you have two powerhouses as participants. I would also like to thank Srimati Piali Mondol for being present this evening and sharing her story with us. The transformation stories driven by our CSR programs give us the strength and courage to continue our endeavors and expand the reach of our development programs. I would like to congratulate the bank for the launch of the musical logo, something unique. As I heard it as many times as we all did today, I felt the warmth that the bank stands for. After all, the name Bandhan itself represents warmth. As our Dada, Saurav Ganguly mentioned, please spread the call of Bandhan far and wide. Bandhan Bank turning 8 is a celebration of growth, progress, and hope, and above all, of the learning that we have gathered over the past many years. I would like to thank everyone who has been a part of this remarkable journey. Bandhan Bank's journey has been an exhilarating one with many milestones. We are at the cusp of another transformation for the bank, as Mr. Ghosh mentioned earlier in his speech. We serve all our banking needs. We serve all your banking needs and will only be more capable with this transformation. The support that we receive from our customers, our shareholders, our employees, the regulators and well-wishers is the fuel behind our growth story. I would like to extend my grateful gratitude to all our stakeholders. The Bandhan story would not have been possible without their undying support. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's together continue making Bandhan bigger and stronger. And I sincerely hope that you will enjoy the rest of the evening, which, as Apurva told us, is bound to be very, very exciting. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sinha. Thank you for the vote of thanks. All right, so what's pending now? What is left? What's left? Nobody has any clue. I announced it in the beginning of the event. Shreya Ghoshal's performance is pending? How many?